Oxford Dictionary defines policy as a course or principle of action adopted or proposed by a government
to ensure that every student has access to a secondary education.
This mismatch leads to frustration, boredom, and ultimately increased instances of indiscipline,
decline in academic standards, and overwhelm and underprepared teachers.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this, our fourth encounter in round 2 of the 2025 Caribbean Union Bank Intersecondary School Debate Series. This evening's debate promises to be an exciting and insightful exchange as both teams present well-supported arguments on an important and relevant topic. The motion for this evening's debate is the Universal Secondary Education Policy in Antigua and Barbuda has proven to be beneficial. The Universal Secondary Education Policy in Antigua and Barbuda has proven to be beneficial. This evening, we have two teams, the Seventh-day Adventist Secondary School, who will be proposing, and the Pears Secondary School, who is opposing this evening. Now, let's meet our debaters, and we begin with the proposing team, the Seventh-day Adventist Secondary School.
Good evening, everyone. My name is J.L. Clark. I'm from the Seventh-day Adventist School, and I will be the first proposition speaker.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christina Alexander, and I am second speaker for the SDASS Secondary School.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jerome Ergus, and I'm the first backup speaker.
Good evening, everyone. I am Leon Ford, and I am the second alternate speaker.
Please welcome the team from the Seventh-day Adventist Secondary School. We now move to the opposing team, the Pears Secondary School.
Good day. I am Kanique Twits, and I am your first speaker for the Pears Secondary School.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Shade Edwin, and I am the second speaker for Pears Secondary School.
Kindly welcome the team from the Pears Secondary School. This evening, we are also delighted to have an esteemed panel of judges who will evaluate each team based on their presentation, rebuttal, delivery, and teamwork. Our judges for this evening are Mr. Ursel Charles Jr., Deputy Director of News and Current Affairs at ABS TV and Radio and Chief Judge for the 2025 Intersecondary School Debate Series. Mr. Jamil Lee, Program Coordinator UNICEF Antigua and Barbuda. And Mrs. Asata Roberts, Deputy Head of Campus at Abbott. Please give our judges a warm welcome. And as I do every evening, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to remind you that our judges' decision is final. We also, at this time, would like to acknowledge the presence of some very special guests in studio with us today. The debating club from the Pickett's Primary School. We are indeed delighted to welcome them as they join us for an exciting and educational experience. Please join me in giving them a warm welcome as they share in this memorable occasion with us. I will now remind you of this evening's debate format. The first speaker from each team will have 5 minutes to present their arguments, while the second speakers will have 3 minutes to conclude their team's position. A bell will sound once at the 4-minute mark and twice at the end of the 5 minutes for the first speakers. It will sound once at the 2-minute mark and twice at the conclusion of the 3 minutes for each second speaker. The rebuttal round will follow with 3 minutes allocated for each team's response. Our official timekeeper this evening is Miss Aisha Lynch. Please give our timekeeper a round of applause. Now we have completed our preliminaries and we are ready to begin this evening's debate. But first, a message from our sponsor, Caribbean Union Bank, and when we come back, the debate will begin. Please stay with us.
Driven by you, we're better every day. Driven by you, together a brighter way. Caribbean Union Bank, you matter to us. Caribbean Union Bank, our people, our purpose. Every day at Caribbean Union Bank, we are committed to creating the kinds of products and services that you want and need. We are not just a bank. We are your partner on your journey to financial freedom and success. Because we are driven by you. Driven by you, we're better every day. Driven by you, together a brighter way.
Welcome back to this evening's encounter, the encounter 4 in round 2 of the 2025 Caribbean Union Bank Inter-Secondary School Debate Series. This evening, 2 teams, the Seventh-day Adventist Secondary School and the Pierce Secondary School, are meeting to debate the moot. The universal secondary education policy in Antigua and Barbuda has proven to be beneficial. To begin this evening's proceedings, let's welcome the first speaker from the Seventh-day Adventist Secondary School. Please put your hands together for Miss Jill Clark.
Madam Moderator, esteemed judges, fellow debaters, listening and viewing audience, good evening. Imagine a world where every child, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to unlock their full potential. A world where education is not privilege for the few, but a right for all. This is the vision that Antigua and Barbuda embraced when it implemented the Universal Secondary Education Policy. Today, I stand before you to argue that the Universal Secondary Education Policy in Antigua and Barbuda, despite any challenges, has proven to be beneficial. Before I proceed, let us define the key terms of this move. Errol Miller in the Journal of Eastern Caribbean Studies defines universal secondary education, also referred to as USC, as students being able to obtain at least 5 years of secondary education beyond grade 6. That is, students receiving education up to grade 11. Oxford Dictionary defines policy as a course or principle of action adopted or proposed by a government. And the Webster Merriam Dictionary defines beneficial as producing good or positive results. Using these definitions, we affirm that universal secondary education in Antigua and Barbuda benefits both students and society. I will highlight individual benefits while my colleague will address societal advantages in 5 compelling points. Firstly, universal secondary education has proven to be a powerful tool for empowering boys in Antigua and Barbuda. Before the implementation of USC, the majority of persons who failed the common entrance exam were boys, with 71% of students in post-primary being male in 2009. Odette Parry, in her study on male underachievement in high school, indicates that in the Caribbean, it is male students who are most in need of special attention. This creates a cycle where boys are more likely to drop out of school early and enter low-paying jobs. However, with the introduction of USC, every child, every boy now has the chance to receive a full secondary education. As a result, more boys are not only attending secondary school, but successfully taking the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate exam. The number of male CSEC candidates increased from 646 in 2009 to 746 in 2015, 5 years after the implementation of USC, as noted in the Antigua and Barbuda Statistical Digest. This shift is a triumph as it breaks historical barriers that once stifled male academic achievement. Secondly, the curriculum at several secondary schools in Antigua has expanded significantly due to the introduction of universal secondary education. Mr. Claire Brown, Director of Education, highlights that institutions such as Princess Margaret School and Antigua Grammar School have introduced subjects like theatre arts, building technology, and electrical technology to accommodate the diverse intelligences of incoming students. This shift acknowledges that academic success is not one size fits all, and that students excel in different ways, whether through creative expression, hands-on technical skills, or traditional academic. My worthy opponents, even high-achieving students who might have once been limited to conventional subjects, now have the option to explore technical and vocational pathways, making them more well-rounded and versatile. Thirdly, universal secondary education promotes lifelong learning by ensuring that students who do not do well at grade 6 national assessment still have access to a good education. Before USC, struggling students had limited academic pathways, restricting their growth. Now they receive extra support to help them progress. According to Samantha Simon in a July 2024 Observer article, all level 4 students will be placed at Clay Hall Secondary and will receive targeted instruction. Mrs. Marcia Chatham, head of special education at Clay Hall, noted that level 3 and 4 students benefit from 3 specialized teachers and specialized programs focused on literacy and numeracy, essential skills for academic and career success. She proudly highlights the success of individual level 3 and 4 students at CSEC, some even achieving grade 1 passes in their subjects. What a difference USC has made in their lives. Madam Moderator, this initiative acknowledges that not all students learn at the same pace and that providing personalized support can bridge the educational gap. Undoubtedly, the universal secondary education policy in Antigua and Barbuda has proven to be beneficial and is contributing to the well-being and progress of individual students in our society. I thank you.
Thank you, Joelle. That was Joelle Clark, the first speaker from the proposing team, the Seventh-day Adventist Secondary School, presenting her argument in a time of 4 minutes and 58 seconds. Now, let's hear from the first speaker from the Pears Secondary School. Please welcome to the lectern Miss Kanique Thwaites.
Madam Moderator, esteemed judges, worthy opponents, and distinguished audience, good day. Today we stand in firm opposition to the motion that the universal secondary education policy in Antigua and Barbuda has proven to be beneficial. While the idea of universal access to secondary education is commendable in theory, in practice, this policy has ultimately harmed rather than helped our education system. Before presenting our arguments, let us set the parameters by defining the key terms of this moot, which are universal secondary education and beneficial. According to the Journal of Caribbean Educational Research, universal secondary education, USE, is an education policy framework that aims to provide an eligible students with access to secondary schooling regardless of socio-economic background, academic ability, or other barriers. While according to the Oxford Online Dictionary, beneficial is defined as producing positive results. We argue that this policy has not been beneficial because it prioritizes quantity over quality. I will expound on 2 leading problems: declining academic standards and overwhelmed and underprepared teachers, while my colleague will further strengthen our argument by discussing increased disciplinary issues. Madam Moderator, the primary goal of any education system should be to ensure high academic standards. However, the implementation of universal secondary education has resulted in a measurable decline in academic performances. According to Warican 2009, while achieving USC is commendable, it presents significant challenges in maintaining quality education in the Caribbean. He argues that the increased access to secondary education has not been matched with the necessary structural and academic reforms to uphold excellence. Before the implementation of USC in Antigua and Barbuda in 2013, students were required to meet the minimum academic standards to enter secondary school. This prerequisite ensures that those admitted were adequately prepared for the curriculum. The system is forced to balance the needs of high-performing students with those who require specialized education. The results: declining grades, disengaged students, and increased dropout rates. Moreover, interviews conducted with secondary school principals have revealed that schools have been compelled to create special programs to support students struggling with foundational skills. Can you imagine students have been awarded scholarship to secondary schools who are unable to read and write at the grade 2 level? Programs have been instituted to correct these problems as going far as back as grade 1. This is a reactive measure rather than a proactive solution. Additionally, data taken from the Ministry of Education reports from 2013 and present shows that a noticeable decline in students' performance in CSEC. This reinforces the argument that access alone does not equate to success. Are we as a nation prepared to continue celebrating USC as a success when it has demonstrably eroded academic standards? It is time to reconsider whether we are prioritizing quantity over quality. And more importantly, whether we are willing to accept the long-term consequences of this trade-off. Madam Moderator, teachers are the backbone of any education system, yet universal secondary education has placed an overwhelming burden on them, while threatening the very quality of education it claims to promote. While USC has expanded access, it has done so without the necessary structural and professional support for educators, making it a policy and that prioritizes quantity over quality. Les Ferris 2011 conducted a study in St. Lucia, revealing that teachers reported feeling overwhelmed due to larger class sizes, inadequate resources, and insufficient professional development. While this study focuses on St. Lucia, the issues highlighted are relevant to Antigua and Barbuda, where teachers face the same systematic challenges. Despite the increased student population, there has been no corresponding investment in teacher training, classroom infrastructure, and instructional support. Teachers are expected to accommodate students with vastly different learning needs, but without proper training or resources, this expectation is unrealistic and unfair. The reality in many secondary schools across Antigua and Barbuda is that they were never designed to handle the sudden influx of students with diverse learning abilities. Furthermore, without specialized training in differentiated instruction, teachers are unable to effectively cater to varying learning styles and ability within their classrooms. How can a policy be considered successful when it places immense pressure on teachers? Access to education is vital, but access without quality is meaningless. A truly beneficial education system does not force teachers to choose between meeting curriculum standards and addressing fundamental learning gaps. It ensures both access and excellence are prioritized. If we are serious about improving education, we must recognize that an unsupported teacher is an ineffective teacher, and a system that neglects educators ultimately fails its students. For these reasons, we strongly oppose the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Kanique. That was Kanique Twaits, the first speaker from the opposing team, the Pierce Secondary School, presenting her argument in a time of 6 minutes and 9 seconds. With the first round of speeches concluded, we now turn to the second speakers, and we begin with the second speaker from the proposing team, the Seventh-day Adventist Secondary School. Please welcome to the lectern, Miss Christina Alexander.
All protocols already being established. Good evening, everyone. I wholeheartedly support my colleagues' compelling case for how the universal secondary education benefits individual students. Now let's zoom out and explore the bigger picture. This policy is not just transforming lives, but also shaping our society. Due to the additional students entering secondary school as a result of the Universal Secondary Education, Director of Education, Claire Brown, notes that 4 new secondary schools were added and constructed in Antigua to accommodate the growing demand for quality education. St. Mary's Secondary School, Glanville Secondary, Irene B. Williams Secondary, and the Sir Novel Richards Academy were all built to ensure that every student has access to a secondary education. These new institutions have helped to reduce overcrowding in existing schools, allowing for smaller class sizes and more individualized attention for students. The secretaries contacted at these schools note that the student-teacher ratio was 20:1. Better student-teacher ratio is a foundation for effective instruction in our schools. Madam Moderator, the expansion of secondary schools has created more job opportunities for teachers, administrative staff, and other education professionals, boosting employment within the sector. The presence of more schools also means that students in different regions of Antigua have access to schools closer to their homes, reducing long traveling times and making education more accessible. Ultimately, these new schools are more than just buildings. They are beacons of opportunity in our society. In addition to that, universal secondary education strengthens Antigua's and Barbuda's workforce, making its people more competitive within the Caribbean single market and economy. This ensures that every child can thrive in an increasingly competitive job market. This is particularly important as Antigua and Barbuda, like many other Caribbean nations, experience an influx in skilled immigrants seeking employment opportunities. Without proper education and training, local citizens may find themselves at a disadvantage, losing out on jobs to better qualified individuals from other territories. In fact, Errol Miller, in an article in the Journal of the Eastern Caribbean Studies, insists that strategies to improve and increase economic competitiveness in almost all Caribbean countries should include the provision of general secondary education. With USC providing all students with access to secondary school education, the country can cultivate a highly skilled workforce, capable of filling roles in key industries such as tourism, agriculture, and information technology. In the long run, USC is not just an investment in education. It is an investment in our economic sovereignty. Endless thanks to all.
Thank you, Christina. That was Christina Alexander, the second speaker from the proposing team, the Seventh-day Adventist Secondary, presenting her argument in a time of 3 minutes. We will now hear from the final speaker in the prepared presentations, and she comes from the opposing team, the Pierce Secondary School. Please welcome to the lectern, Ms. Shade Elvin.
Good afternoon, Madam Moderator, esteemed judges, worthy opponents, and distinguished audience. Today, I support my colleague as we stand firm in opposing the motion that the universal secondary education policy in Antigua and Barbuda has proven to be beneficial. It has already been expounded that this policy has not been beneficial because it has led to a decline in academic standard and overwhelmed and underprepared teachers. I will further strengthen our argument by discussing increased disciplinary issues. Madam Moderator, while USC was designed to promote inclusivity, it has inadvertently introduced a wave of behavioral challenges that schools are ill-equipped to handle. According to Waricon 2009, many schools implementing USC have reported a significant rise in behavioral issues which they attribute to a lack of student motivation. When students who are not academically inclined or interested in formal education are forced into the system, they often become disengaged and disruptive. Instead of fostering a productive learning atmosphere, classrooms become battlegrounds for maintaining order. Students who would have previously pursued alternative vocational training or other career paths are now required to remain in academic settings that may not align with their strengths or interests. This mismatch leads to frustration, boredom, and ultimately increased instances of indiscipline. Moreover, Schools are now forced to allocate resources towards managing behavioral problems rather than investigating in policies that enhance academic outcomes. Guidance counselors, disciplinary committees, and additional administrative measures has become necessary to maintain orders, yet these do little to address the root cause of the problem. The presence of demotivated and disruptive students fosters an environment of resistance to learning, further eroding the culture of academic excellence that schools strive to uphold. Madam Moderator, is this the kind of education system we wish to promote? One where discipline consumes more attention than instruction? Where dedicated teachers must act as disciplinarians instead of educators? If USC is truly effective, it must acknowledge that one-size-fits-all education is unrealistic. If we are serious about improving education, we must address the disciplinary issues before they further erode the quality of our schools. Madam Moderator, we must ask ourselves, is universal secondary education in Antigua and Barbuda truly beneficial if it comes at the cost of declining academic standards, overwhelmed teachers, and increased disciplinary issues? Madam Moderator, education is meant to uplift, empower, and equip students for success. But how can we call USC a success? Access to education is important, but access without quality is meaningless. We must reevaluate USC to ensure that education remains effective, structured, and one of the highest standards. The time for change is now. The opposition rests.
Thank you, Shade. That was Shade Elving, the second speaker from the opposing team, the Peer Secondary, presenting her argument in a time of 3 minutes and 18 seconds. A huge round of applause for all of our debaters for their presentation and efforts in the prepared presentations. The rebuttals are up next. But before we hear from our rebuttal speakers, we will pause to hear from our sponsor, Caribbean Union Bank. When we return, we will begin our rebuttals. Please stay with us.
Driven by you, we're better every day. Driven by you, together a brighter way. Caribbean Union Bank, you matter to us. Caribbean Union Bank, our people, our purpose. Every day at Caribbean Union Bank, we are committed to creating the kinds of products and services that you want and need. We are not just a bank. We are your partner on your journey to financial freedom and success. Because we are driven by you. Driven by you, we're better every day. Driven by you, together a brighter way.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us for this evening's encounter, which is featuring the Seventh-day Adventist Secondary School and the Peer Secondary School, and they are meeting to debate the moot. The universal secondary education policy in Antigua and Barbuda has proven to be beneficial. Now we enter the rebuttal phase, where speakers will challenge and critique the arguments put forth by their opponents. I urge each rebuttal speaker to critically analyze and refute the opposing arguments while upholding respect for their opponents. The opposition side, the Peer Secondary, will begin this round, followed by the proposition, the Seventh-day Adventist Secondary School. Each rebuttal speaker has 3 minutes to present their counter-arguments. The bell will sound once at the 2-minute mark and twice when the allotted 3 minutes have expired. Now, let us begin the rebuttals. And we ask you to join your hands together to welcome the rebuttal speaker from the Peers Secondary School, Ms. Kanique Thwaites.
All protocols previously established, good day. My worthy opponents, your first speaker stated that students being able to have access to secondary education gains individual benefits. But we disagree. We disagree because teachers are underprepared to give the necessary structural and professional support to students. You stated that male students need more secondary education. But teachers are the one that needs the help. They need to be prepared to teach these students with various diverse learning styles. In conclusion, USC will not be beneficial because of the lack of resources and underprepared teachers. It is time to reconsider whether we are prioritizing quantity over quality, and more importantly, whether we are willing to accept the long-term consequences of this trade-off. Furthermore, without specialized training in differentiated instruction, teachers are unable to ineffectively cater to varying learning styles and abilities within the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. We can do better than that. Give her another round of applause. That was Kanique Thwaites presenting rebuttal arguments on behalf of the opposing team, the Pierce Secondary School, and she did so in a time of 1 minute and 36 seconds. We now turn to the opposing team, and we ask you to please welcome the rebuttal speaker from the Seventh-day Adventist Secondary School, Miss Christine Alexander.
Protocols being established, greetings to all. Madam Moderator, our opponents would have stated some notable points. Fortunately, I'm here to set the record straight. Follow me as we delve into their arguments. My opponents claimed that there has been a decline in academic standards in schools. This in itself is a faulty claim. Not only does USC bring the opportunity to increase the standard of academics, but according to the Statistical Digest in 2012 to 2015, more boys have been given a chance to raise the academic standards. And with the incentives that come with success, students are more than motivated to do well in schools. Should we deny them the opportunity on the whole? They argue that there isn't enough resources to account for the quality education USC offers. But not only does the government and school cater for the needs of students, but NGOs like Rotary helps to bear the financial burden of schools. Panel of judges, they claim to have seen a rise in disciplinary issues. While this may be true, there are systems in and outside of school to be a sort of panacea for these issues. If there weren't in schools, then there wouldn't be any sort of control over the youth today. They went on to say that there is an inadequate training of our teachers. Madam Moderator, what are workshops for? The government of Antigua has put in place workshops for our teachers, training them to be equipped enough to teach students. As noted by Mrs. Marcia Chatham, head of specialized education at Clear Hall Secondary, there are specialized teachers put in place to cater for level 3 and 4 students. My opponents would have mentioned that there's an increase in dropout rates since the implementation of the USC policy. Madam Moderator, the USC policy isn't a panacea for dropout rates. There isn't many students entering secondary schools on a whole, and there's also a decrease in the population of our nation. The USC policy isn't the real problem for increased dropout rates. Many people are dropping out of schools for various reasons, as noted by the principal of St. Mary's Secondary School. Students are dropping out of schools because they see their parents and family members having businesses like fishing careers, and they see a need for more vocational jobs, so they leave school to pursue this career. Is this the USC's fault? In conclusion, the USC policy has brought along many benefits. While we recognize the many challenges, the USC is not the direct source of the problem. As Director of Education, Claire Brown noted, the universal secondary education is here and is here to stay. And that's thanks to all.
Thank you, Christina. That was Christina Alexander presenting rebuttal arguments on behalf of the proposing team, the Seventh-day Adventist Secondary, and she did so in a time of 2 minutes and 40 seconds. A well-earned round of applause for each team for their analytical skills, quick thinking and overall presentations this evening. Please give them a round of applause. Now it's time for the judges to deliberate. Which team will secure the final place in the semi-finals? Will it be the Seventh-day Adventist Secondary School or the Pierce Secondary School? Please stay with us and you will find out after we would have heard from our sponsor, Caribbean Union Bank.
Driven by you, we're better every day. Driven by you, together a brighter way. Caribbean Union Bank, you matter to us. Caribbean Union Bank, our people, our purpose. Every day at Caribbean Union Bank, we are committed to creating the kinds of products and services that you want and need. We are not just a bank. We are your partner on your journey to financial freedom and success. Because we are driven by you. Driven by you, we're better every day. Driven by you, together a brighter way.
Thank you for staying with us and welcome back to this, our fourth encounter in round 2 of the Caribbean Union Bank Intersecondary School Debate Series. We have reached the conclusion of another exciting and thought-provoking debate, and the motion for this evening was the Universal Secondary Education Policy in Antigua and Barbuda has proven to be beneficial. Now, it is time to hear the final decision. I now invite to the lectern Mrs. Asata Roberts to present the judge's report and to announce the winner of this evening's encounter. Please welcome her as she comes.
Good evening, everyone. Let us give another round of applause to both teams for having done an excellent job giving their arguments. The judges acknowledge that both teams presented their arguments with passion and would have done an excellent job in researching their parts, the moot. We also appreciate the effort made by them to use journals, interviews, and articles to substantiate the points made. However, there are some areas that could take some work. This includes time management, which is essential in any debate encounter. This includes being more familiar with your script, knowing what you have written and what you are presenting. If you know what you are presenting, you know your script, then it reduces the possibility of you making any errors. We would also like to take this opportunity to highlight that the SDASS Secondary School presented a very good rebuttal in this debate. Now we move on to presenting the best speaker on both sides. For the proposing team, we have the first speaker, Miss J.L. Clark, being adjudged best speaker. For the opposing team, the Pierce Secondary School, we commend both speakers because you both amassed the same amount of points. The best overall speaker for this evening's encounter is Miss J.L. Clark, first speaker for the SDASS Secondary School. Now on to our scores. The Pierce Secondary School amassed 61 points, while the SDASS Secondary School amassed 83 points, making the SDASS School the winners for this evening's encounter, and the final team moving on to the semifinals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Roberts, for presenting the report on behalf of the panel this evening and for officially announcing the winner of this evening's encounter. Please join me in extending our appreciation to the judges for their dedication, commitment, and professionalism in adjudicating this evening's encounter. Please give them a round of applause. I also wish at this time to join Mrs. Roberts in congratulating both speakers on the side of the opposition and the best overall speaker, Miss Jill Clark, in this evening's encounter. And congratulations to the Seventh-day Adventist Secondary School for securing their place in the semi-final round. Please, a round of applause for our team. We will now hear the final words from our debaters, and we will begin with the Pierce Secondary School. I will invite the speaker who will give closing remarks to come forward to present remarks on behalf of her team.
First, we would like to thank the staff of PSS, parents, and all who assisted in research, and we'd also like to congratulate SDA on a job well done, and we want to wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you, Shade. I will now ask the speaker from the proposing team to come forward to present final remarks on behalf of the SDA Secondary.
Good evening to all. Thank you to our viewing audience, esteemed judges, Madam Moderator, our debate trainer, team, worthy opponents, and most importantly, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for the opportunity to take part in this competition. Thank you, Madam Moderator, for so ably leading this debate. Thank you to the staff of the Education Broadcasting Unit. Thank you to the Ministry of Education and also to our sponsor, the Caribbean Union Bank. Our appreciation is kindly extended to one and all. Good evening.
Thank you, Joelle, and I wish to say thank you to you, our listening and viewing audience, for being with us this evening. And as we conclude this evening's debate, remember, great debates shape great minds, and great minds shape the future. Join us next week for another thrilling encounter, the first encounter in the semi-final round between St. Mary's Secondary and the St. Joseph's Academy. Until then, I have been your moderator, Alicia Knowles. Do enjoy the rest of your evening, and God bless.